Kshatriyas. So this great king, he's giving up everything in response to this curse. And he's simply going to the Ganges to sit and fast. And while he's there to sit and fast and just pray, because he's ready to just take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, all of these great personalities are arriving. They've all come to support him, as we heard from the class yesterday. And so Maharaj Parikshit, in this verse, he is showing us how to welcome these personalities, how to welcome elders, how to be respectful. He's giving us a value that is a part of the Vaishnava culture. It's a part of the etiquette of Vaishnava culture. How to associate with saintly personalities, how to associate with those that are elder in our different communities. There were so many different personalities coming from so many different communities in that assembly. And as we heard, some of them were great Rajarshis, great kings, big kings. And he bowed down to all of these personalities. So this theme is what I want to focus on for this class a little, is this mood of bowing down, this consciousness of bowing down. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the system, that is a system. And I think if we can see that purport again, I believe it's the first line of the verse. Yeah, it says, okay, we can't see this again, Saha. So Saha, you want to read that first line?
Yeah, the system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, so thank you so much. You can take it down now. So this system was set up by Krishna himself, right? There are many pastimes in the Bhagavatam that helps us to understand Krishna himself bowed down to many personalities. We read not too long ago when Krishna is entering into Dwarka, and we spoke about this, how when he was greeted by the residents of Dwarka, the way that they were welcoming him back to Dwarka, how Krishna had that mood of being so reverential to all of those citizens that were there in the assembly, ready to greet him. Actually, I think I mentioned this somewhere recently, that even in that, those citizens, those residents of Dwarka, amongst them were prostitutes. And Krishna was having that mood of bowing down to all of the citizens. It wasn't that he was discriminating against anyone. So even the prostitutes, he had this reverential mood. So this is the mood that Krishna sets for us, right? He sets this mood of bowing down. It is a consciousness of seeing ourselves lower than a blade of grass, more humble than a blade of grass, right? More tolerant than a tree. So Krishna himself has set this. We've had this from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this prayer. However, Krishna showed us, he showed us in so many different arenas, so many different pastimes. Another pastime we can think about is when Krishna was with the Pandavas, he actually bowed down. He bowed down to the elder of the Pandavas. I think it was Yudhishthira and Bhima. Maybe they were older than Krishna. I think I remember they were older than Krishna. And so when Krishna met with them, he bowed down to them, right? And he offered obeisance. He offered his obeisance to them. And he offers his respects to the other members of the Pandavas. We also hear how Krishna, when Bhishma Dev was lying down, right, on the bed of arrows, how Krishna came there and Krishna bowed down to Bhishma Dev. Many of the people in that arena were wondering, why is Krishna bowing down? Why is he bowing down to Bhishma? Bhishma knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. but still, Krishna bowed down. Why did he do that? Because he himself was showing us the etiquette of how to approach a senior person. What is the mood to have when we acknowledge the presence of a senior person? So this mood of bowing down, it's set up for us by the Supreme Lord. It is a system that is given to us by the Lord himself. And so we see that those persons that value this system that's set up by Krishna, they exemplify how to do this, how to do this throughout the Bhagavatam. One of the points that was mentioned in the class yesterday was purification, that so much of this process of devotional service is for our purification. And so when we bow down, when we have that consciousness of understanding how important it is to bow down, then we are also becoming purified from that mood of not understanding the value of bowing down. And so there is a class of Srila Prabhupada, actually a conversation of Srila Prabhupada with a guest. And this guest was asking Prabhupada to explain subordination. How do you explain this word? Because when we think of bowing down, we actually understand we're being subordinate to some person or some situation. We're allowing ourselves, we're allowing our consciousness to become lower in that situation. So that conversation, I'll share some of it. It says, can you explain subordination? And Srila Prabhupada says, subordination? He says, yes, it is simple. It's simple. Everyone must be subordinate to somebody else. Are you not subordinate to somebody? He's asking this of the guest. Aren't you subordinate to someone? And the guest says, yes, in a material sense, he says, but in a spiritual sense, I don't feel subordinate to anyone. So he's making this distinction, this boy, right, to Prabhupada, this guest. And then Prabhupada says, when you understand what spiritual life is, you will see that in a spiritual sense, that you're also subordinate. And because your nature, he explains to him, your nature is to be subordinate. What do you, and then he asked him, what do you mean by material and spiritual? What does that mean? And so the guest says, well, for example, at my job, I am subordinate to my boss. But in my real being, in my spiritual nature, I don't feel I'm subordinate to my boss or anyone else. In other words, I don't feel that I have to bow down to anybody. And I don't feel that anybody has to bow down to me. Srila Prabhupada says, why do you not want to bow down? And the guest answers, because I don't feel that I owe anyone anything or that anyone owes me anything. So then Prabhupada says in this conversation, he goes on in this conversation and he says, so this is the material disease. This is a material disease. We're forced to bow down, yet we think that we do not have to bow down. This is the disease. And then the person says, no one can force me to bow down. So he's being really belligerent, right, about this bowing down. And this brings us to, ourselves in our everyday life. How many of us have this consciousness that we willingly, lovingly embrace bowing down? How many of us really can say that in my consciousness, I am always in that mood of bowing down, no matter what happens, no matter how much I might think, somebody is doing something that's not right, or how much something is unwanted, I have that consciousness of bowing down. So this is what Maharaj Parikshit is giving us entrance into, how we can develop this mood, this consciousness, always of being ready to bow down, no matter what's going on, whether it's wonderful or not so wonderful, to be able to be in this consciousness always. Now, of course, we could say, well, Maharaj Parikshit, he comes from this lineage, and he's already come from a great devotee family, and he already had knowledge of Krishna, and so many things we can say about the goodness of Maharaj Parikshit. However, Maharaj Parikshit was a king, and as a king, he did have to act and behave in a kingly way, which means he was a ruler. And as a ruler, you do need to make decisions about people and people's lives. So there were activities that he would do that would reflect that kind of ruling monarch. Now, of course, Maharaj Parikshit always ruled in a way where he was exemplary. I think Ganga Prasad Prabhu quoted that verse yesterday from Bhagavad Gita 3:21, whatever a great man does, common people follow, right? That's 3:21, I think that's 3:21. I think I heard him quote that verse. And so this was the example of Maharaj Parikshit, that he was being that example as a monarch, and also as a member of a amazing devotee family, that he could be the example that he is for all of us, that he could respond in a way when something happened to bow down. And so Prabhupada, with this guest, he's trying to help this guest to understand this basic principle. This is a principle of Vaishnava etiquette, as is mentioned in the purport. The whole verse is about this etiquette. All of these kings, all of these sages, they're gathering together. They are bowing down to Maharaj Parikshit because this is good news for them. This is such amazing news that here is this king. He is bowing down, just leaving everything and coming to the Ganges. That's what they would do, right? That's what these sages would do. And nobody would talk about it. It's not a big deal for a sage. It's not a big deal for a Brahmana in those days, because that's what they do. They go and they just, give up everything, and they take shelter of Krishna, and they go to the holy places and they hear and chant. But for Maharaj Parikshit, it was a little bit out of the ordinary because of his position, right? His position as a king. So here he is on the banks and having this mood of submission, this mood of subordination. And the sages, they're gathering also in that mood of subordination to Maharaj Parikshit, because they're like, wow, how can he do this? This is amazing. Like for example, when you hear, or when our parents, heard we are going to join the Hare Krishna movement, some of them may have said, oh, that's so wonderful. These guys, they're these personalities, they're going to go and be about something spiritual. Some parents may have been like that. Most weren't, but many were like that. To support that this person is really taking this this mood of becoming connected to the Lord in a deeper way, very seriously. So this was Maharaj Parikshit. He was like, I am just going to surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. That's it. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to retract this curse. I don't need to do anything. I just need to go and surrender. And so Prabhupada is helping us to understand this with this guest, that this mood of subordination is inherently a part of who we are. Now, of course, we've forgotten. It's a part of who we are because it ultimately comes from Krishna. And we are all connected to Krishna, right? We're all parts and parcels of Krishna. So inherently, we are subordinate, inherently. However, due to contact with Krishna's external energy, we have forgotten how to be subordinate. And now we need to remember once again. And this simple verse, this little sweet verse, is helping us how to see within ourselves, how purified are we really becoming. So this verse is a verse for us to practicalize our Krishna consciousness. So are we in our consciousness ready to bow down to someone when they do something that we absolutely do not agree with? Are we still able to bow down to such persons? What is the mood that we might have when it comes to allowing ourselves to connect with our true self, our true nature, who we really are? So in that mood, Prabhupada asked this person, why don't you want to bow down? And this guest says, because I don't feel I'm inferior to anyone. So isn't that our situation? Most of the time, we don't want to be inferior to anyone. Maharaj Parikshit, he didn't think like that, right? He understood, I cannot allow myself to be, he understood he could not allow himself to be like that for a couple of reasons. One, he did not want to commit offenses again, right? He understood that he had committed that offense. And he knew, okay, something had to happen because I committed that offense. There was no way he was going to repeat that same mistake, right? And so he understood that because I had committed that mistake, now I am in all these stages are coming. It's not like he asked them to come. They all, when they heard the good news, they all started coming. And he could understand that these sages are coming, and there's no way I'm going to have a disruption for my commitment to surrender to Krishna's lotus feet. I'm not going to allow that to happen. So he took shelter of offering his submission, offering his obeisance, bowing his head down to these saintly persons, everyone, so that he wouldn't commit that same mistake, right? So he wouldn't be offensive to these great sages that have come from all over. We hear that come from different universes to be there with Maharaj Parikshit. So going back to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, he says, this is the disease of material existence. You have diagnosed your own disease. So he's telling this to the guys, you have a disease. Everyone is thinking, I want to be the master. Everyone is thinking like that. I don't wish to bow down to anyone. Everyone is thinking like this, he says. This is the part of the nature of people in Krishna's external energy in the material world. No one thinks that they should bow down. Everyone is thinking, you bow down to me. Why should I bow down to you? And so Prabhupada then says, this is not only your disease. He's telling this to the guests. It's just not your disease. Everyone has this disease mentally. We all have it mentally. Why shall I bow down? Why shall I become subordinate? Then he goes on, but nature is forcing me to become subordinate. Nature itself, material nature. Now, why are people dying? Can you answer this question? Prabhupada asked this of the guests. And so here again, we're faced with the fact that Maharaj Parikshit, he knew 7 days I have to die. So now I got to go and find out about death. Now I got to go and really understand what is my relationship with the Lord, because death is inevitable for everyone, right? Everybody has to face that. We understand that. We all know that. That's Bhagavad Gita 101. Everybody faces death. Doesn't matter. However, most people don't think that they have to face death. You know, our teeth could be falling out. You know, we could have all kinds of problems with our bodies. We can see all the lines coming on the face. You know, we can understand, you know, that we can't eat the same way we used to eat when we were younger. We realize that we wake up in the mornings, what do I wake up for? And most of the time, many people wake up to pain. These are things that shows us that this body is just so temporary. And yet we don't believe that we're going to die. Many times people don't believe they're going to die. Even when they see these things happening, we don't think, oh, wow, I'm waking up to pain. Whew, that means I'm getting closer to death. Or my teeth are falling out. Yeah, that means that I'm getting closer to death. We don't think like that. It's, you know, Maharaj Parikshit, he was young. It wasn't like he was an old man. But he knew, okay, 7 days, let me face this death. So Prabhupada asked this guest, why are people dying? Why are they dying? And the guest says, well, death is biologically determined. It is biologically determined. So this must have been a scientist or something in the midst of Srila Prabhupada, and we'll hear how Srila Prabhupada addresses the situation. So Prabhupada says, that means biological force. That's what it means, biological force. You are subordinate to biology. Then why do you say that you are independent? He's asking this guest. And the guest says, well, I feel that I am. So when we talk about feeling is an emotion, right? So we want to understand, well, what's under that? What is he really talking about, this guest, when he says he feel? Because that's something in his body that he's feeling, right? Usually when we have an emotion, it correlates to something that's going on with our bodies. So he's saying, I feel that I am. So there's some emotion there that we don't understand where this feeling is coming from. And then Prabhupada says, well, you are feeling wrongly. You are feeling wrongly. Whatever is underneath, whatever is under the iceberg of your feelings, it's wrong. He says, that is my point. You are subordinate and you must bow down to biological forces. When death comes, you can't say, oh, I don't obey you. Therefore, you are subordinate, because death does not in any way, my spiritual master, revered spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj says, death has no favorites. When death comes, right? So the guest, he says, I am subordinate to God, yes? So he's breaking a little, yes, I'm subordinate to God. And Prabhupada says, no, forget God for now. Let's forget God, take God out of the picture, right? So he's really like helping this guest to understand, okay, let's look at this mood that you have. Check the mood, check the consciousness. Let's forget God. And he says to him, God is far away. God is far away. Let's just forget God. Now we're speaking about material nature. We're speaking about the laws of material nature, right? Because the guy is talking about this person, about biology. He said, now let's look at material nature. Let's look at what is going on in this world. Let's look at the modes of material nature. Let's look at all that's going on as far as material nature is concerned. And Prabhupada says, just try to understand that although you do not want to die, you are forced to die because you are subordinate. This is the end of, you are subordinate. And so then the boy says, oh yes, that makes sense. He tells Prabhupada, that makes sense. And Prabhupada says, then you understand your position that you are subordinate. You cannot declare, I am free. We can't say that, I'm free. Yes, we may have some choices. And even that, when we really go deep, we don't really have so many choices. We don't really have choices. We think we do. And in Krishna's external energy, we do have some choices. Prabhupada tells him, he says, you think you are free. You think you are not subordinate. If you're thinking that you don't wish to be subordinate, that you don't have to bow down, then you're diseased. This is what Maharaj Parikshit is teaching us, how to not be diseased. Because his response to knowing that he was going to die was to immediately take shelter of Krishna fully, giving up everything fully. It wasn't that he wasn't taking shelter of Krishna, because that's his heritage, right? That's who he is. However, when he learned, I'm going to die in 7 days, then he understood immediately, give up everything, give up everything. That was the mood of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj. When he learned that he was going to die in 1 year, he understood, okay, I need to move towards that mood of what he said at the end of his life. I am not a sannyasi. I am not a guru. I am not Swami Krishnapad. I am not Bhaktitirtha Swami. I am none of these things. I am simply a servant of Krishna. And that is the mood. That is where everyone has to come to. Doesn't matter who it might be. And so Prabhupada says, understand this disease. First, we got to understand this disease. The guest says, okay, but who or what should I bow down to? So Prabhupada is now getting his attention. What are you, okay, maybe I do need to bow down, but who do I bow down to? And that's the crisis of most people in the world today. They are not subordinate. They don't understand bowing down. They don't want to bow down because they don't know who to bow down to. When we look at the world today, who wants to bow down to anyone in the world today? It's a mess, right? And so people are bewildered. Who do I bow down to? And unless somebody is really searching for God in some way, whether through the Christian path, the Islamic path, whatever path one is choosing to try to find God, to look for God, unless a person is on a path of wanting to serve, understand, learn about the Lord, that this principle of bowing down is just not in someone, it's not there. It's not in someone's consciousness. So Prabhupada tells this guest, first of all, try to fully understand your disease. Try to understand your disease. Then we shall prescribe your medicine. Only after you understand your disease. I see Govinda Prabhu has his hand up. So we will move from Prabhupada's subordination, Prabhupada speaking to this guest about subordination and about the disease and about facing death and about the mercy that Maharaj is receiving from all of these guests that are coming, and from Maharaj Parikshit having this consciousness of bowing down to Govinda's hand that's up. Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mata,
Hari,
please kindly accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Gurudev, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hope I'm not cutting you. I don't know whether you've actually ended your speech. I'm not cutting you. I only raise my hand so that when it's time for question, I will not be left behind.
Prabhu, you can ask a question now. I'm always happy with being interactive, and I'm always happy with others sharing. We shared a lot about Prabhupada and Prabhupada's mood with that guest, and I believe that's given us a lot to think about, especially in reference to this verse about bowing down and how to receive other devotees, other guests. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, actually, I have many questions. My first question will be is concerning this bowing down. First of all, we'd like to thank you very much for your interpretation to this very verse, and it's given us a lot of insight and help us to become more humble in order to actually embrace Krishna's message. So thank you very, very much. The question is concerning this bowing down. I would like you to help me to understand. You see, if you are doing something and you understand what you are doing and the benefits that you're going to get from doing that, that will actually encourage you or motivate you to do it and do it well. So sometimes, most of us don't understand why we have to bow down. Krishna bowed down, this person bowed down, and we are supposed to bow down. What is the spiritual implications when one bows down? Does it help us spiritually? Does it uplift us by bowing down? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami emphasized bowing down to the deities. And he said, it's by bowing down to the deities once, one get the entrance, get a chance to enter into heaven planet. King Raghunath, when he offended Jadabharat, he also jumped from his palanquin and bowed down to Jadabharat. Dhruva Samuni, when Dhruva Samuni offended Ambarish Maharaj, Dhruvasa, by his mystical power, it was, he traveled everywhere, from planet to planet, to the extent of even entering to Vaikunta, to see Lord Narayan. And he was directed to come down and bow down to the devotee, to Ambarish. So I would like to know what is the spiritual benefit from bowing down? That is the first question. And after this, I have other questions also.
So I'll share what is not the spiritual benefit of bowing down. So in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's explained that the Vaishnav aparad can manifest in several different ways. And His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, he expands on these Vaishnav aparad in his book Radha Sunya. And he explains, the first one is to kill a Vaishnava, the second one is the blasphemy of Vaishnava. And this third one, which relates to this verse, is one who upon seeing a Vaishnava does not offer obeisance, right? So that's a way that Vaishnav aparad can exist. Now, what happens when we commit Vaishnav aparad? We automatically diminish our spiritual credits. We automatically diminish our spiritual advancement. We automatically slow down whatever spiritual progress that may be there for us. We automatically turn the door to getting the mercy. We close the door to the mercy, right? On this third principle of Vaishnav aparad. So for a Vaishnava not to offer obeisance is a form of bowing down, right? We see that Dandavat is something that is recommended throughout our scripture. So not only is this an etiquette, of how to behave with each other, it's an etiquette to receive Krishna's mercy. So if we bow down, when we bow down, see, people can bow down. However, the consciousness of how we bow down, that's what's important. And that's what Parikshit Maharaj is teaching us. What is the consciousness for making spiritual advancement? I mentioned in that when I was sharing earlier that what some of the demigods, they try to give Maharaj Parikshit Amrita so that he wouldn't have to die. He refused because his consciousness was in the mood of bowing down to Krishna's lotus feet. Why did he want to bow down to Krishna's lotus feet? Because he knew he was dying and he wanted to make spiritual advancement. He wanted to have a relationship with the Lord. So the benefit of bowing down is to, as Ganga Prasad shared yesterday, is to purify our consciousness so that we can make spiritual advancement, so that we can become actual lovers of Krishna, as His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Maharaj always advises us. We want to be, that's the goal, is for us to really remember our relationship with the Lord. And so we develop this mood of bowing down, not just to bow down, not just because it's an etiquette, although that's important as a start. And that's why Prabhupada said, we first have to understand our disease of why we don't want to bow down, why we don't want to see a Vaishnava and offer obeisance, why we get angry at a Vaishnava, that's also an offense, why we don't feel delighted when we see a Vaishnava. Just to see a Vaishnava, that helps us to become more spiritually advanced, or it helps us to understand this mood of Krishna, the mood of the Lord. When Krishna saw Sudama Brahman, He was so happy. He bathed Sudam Brahman's feet, and he took the water from the bathing bowl and he sprinkled it on his own head. This is the mood that we are trying to develop as devotees. And when we fall short of that, it is important to ask ourselves what comes up for us when we fall short of something. When something unwanted is happening in our environments, we need to become very aware of the disease that's underneath that. What do I feel? What happens to me when something happens in my environment? Do I feel angry? What's going on? What's the mood? What's the emotion? And then to try to address those emotions so that we can become free from these different aparats that people may make at different times. I hope that's helpful, Prabhu. I mean, ultimately,
yes.
Yeah, there is a song I wanted to share from, I don't know how many of you have heard the song, but it's kind of interesting. Even the materialists, they understand the importance of bowing down. This is a song, it's a very old song. I remember when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, I heard about this song. It's from Boy George. And this song says, bow down, mister, bow down. Bow down, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, bow down. He sings the song and it has all these amazing lyrics about why to bow down. He says, let's see where he says, if you don't bow down, do the right thing with your hands, lay down on the pleasing, let's see, I try to write the words out. Lay down on the pleasing sands, whatever else your faith demands. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then he goes on to say, he said, all the Hindus, you know that song, all the Hindus, they know that if you want to live some more, then you bow down. If you want to live, this is a consciousness to develop. All the Hindus, they know this. All the people, that understand any etiquette at all understands this. So this is what Maharaj Parikshit is teaching us. And so this is a system that's known throughout any faith community. It's the system that's even known in some or everyone is a devotee, but in those persons that are not aware that they're devotees, it's even prominent in those cultures. For example, in Africa, it's such a prominent part of the culture to bow down to elders. When somebody comes to the home of and you know this, I'm just saying this because I happen to have some experience of this. If you go to the home of someone in anywhere in Africa, just like it's been like that, it was like that also in India. Everybody, no matter where, no matter how poor a person might be, they will invite you for some water or something they will offer. They will have a reverential mood. It's just a part of the culture. So even if one wants to make progress in material culture, it's important to understand this mood of bowing down. I don't know, Prabhu, did you want to share something about this that you might have some realizations about? Govinda?
No, you said it all, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have other questions, but I will allow other devotees to come in.
Yeah, I wanted to just maybe close with this verse of why Maharaj Parikshit, why this was such good news for the sages, why Maharaj Parikshit has this mood of bowing down, and how this mood is a part of our eternal culture to bow down. It's not a material thing. It's a part of who we are spiritually. And Krishna tells us this in Bhagavad Gita, right? Now, I'm not sure, but I think he chanted this verse yesterday also. Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, that verse in Bhagavad Gita 9:14, where Krishna says, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So this was the example of Maharaj Parikshit. He was perpetually worshiping Krishna with devotion. He was offering obeisance to the Lord and offering obeisance to those persons that came to support him, to give him support in his amazing surrender. You know, he totally surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that mood. It wasn't that he just bowed down to the sages. It was that he bowed down to everything about life, and he bowed down to everything about eternality. He bowed down in his consciousness. And I just, yeah, and I wanted to share just real quickly. Of course, everybody knows Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, you know, that he exemplified this mood. Srila Prabhupada exemplified this mood. When some of Srila Prabhupada's God brothers, you know, were coming to visit him, Srila Prabhupada was thinking that maybe he had offended them in some ways, because sometimes he may have said some things that they could have possibly felt offended. And Srila Prabhupada was begging for their forgiveness. Please forgive me. He was bowing to them. Please forgive me. And most of his godbrothers says, no, what you have done is so incredible. You know, you have taken Westerners and you have made them, you know, lovers of Krishna. There's no reason for you to ask our forgiveness. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj in the same way. So many people were coming to see him. People would leave his room crying, tears. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, it does not get better than this in terms of the dying process, in terms of what he was experiencing. He said, it does not get better than this. And recently, our dear Murari Prabhu left his body, our godbrother, Mother Padma's husband. And Murari was someone that I was sharing this, that he bowed down. Whenever you saw him and you asked him, how are you? He would say, wonderful, wonderful. He was always in that mood of understanding. Krishna, thank you. Krishna, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to serve. He was so much older than Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, yet he served Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj with such submission. Anyone that saw Murari and how he was with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, they would think Murari was like a 7-year-old boy. He had that mood. He understood this mood of bowing down, being subordinate. It's a gift. So if someone would like to share something, please, you know, humility, it melts the heart of Krishna and also Krishna's devotees. So I'd like to ask you a question then. For those of you that may not always be in the consciousness of bowing down, what is it that obstruct you from bowing down? What are some things that make you not able to bow down? So that's a question I have for you.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So should we consider that the class is over? It's now like Q&A time?
Yeah, we can do that.
No, if you say we can do that, it means you are not done yet.
I'm done. Amani na, amani day na.
Okay. So, dear devotees, if anyone has a question, you may ask, but before you ask a question, we've been asked a question by our revered speakers. So whoever has an answer or wants to give an answer, you may do that.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
My obeisances to you again and again. Mata, what do you say about the devotees are supposed to be very merciful? And so devotees' prayer is that everyone become Krishna conscious. The devotee prayer is that everyone goes back to Godhead. And whatever it takes for one to get this opportunity to return home, a devotee is willing to do that. A devotee is trying to protect people from getting the wrath of Krishna. Devotee doesn't want to see anybody because no one can actually face the wrath of Krishna. And it's very dangerous for Krishna himself to take action against an offender. And the perfect example was Durvasa Muni. So what do you think? We're talking of bowing down. Is a form of humility. That if someone offends you, if someone has offended me, someone has said something and I don't like it, I feel bad, I feel hurt, and I keep quiet. If I keep quiet, means that Krishna himself has to intervene. And if Krishna should intervene, that will be a detrimental to that person. And if I respond to the person, then Krishna will not come in. So which is which? Which one do we take? Do we have to revenge so Krishna doesn't come in, or we just keep quiet, we take a humble position for Krishna to intervene? So what is...
Thank you so much, Govinda Prabhu. You always ask these very wonderful, insightful questions. And you also always share amazing realizations. Thank you. So we get the example from Parikshit Maharaj. Of course, Maharaj Parikshit is on the highest level of surrender, right? He's on the highest level of when you think you're wrong, how do you respond? So he could have thought he was wrong by having that young boy, like curse him, However, how did he respond? He responded by just giving everything up and going and taking shelter of Krishna. So when Prabhupada says that we need to understand this disease, it's really important to understand what comes up for us when we think we're wronged, when somebody does something and we think we're wrong. Your question about whether we wait or we don't wait or what do we do? So Maharaj didn't wait. Maharaj Parikshit didn't wait. He immediately went, right? Now we may not be on that level. At least I can speak for myself. I am not on that level. I am not on that level. So now if I am wronged, then I need to check in with myself and see, what am I feeling first of all? What's coming up for me when I'm wrong? When I think somebody wronged me? Do I have anger? Do I have contempt? Do I have disgust? Am I going to dehumanize the person? Do I hate the person? Am I like being self-righteous? I have to check in with myself, understand my disease. When I check in with myself, I'm internal with myself. I'm able to check in with my disease. Then I'm able to apply some of the principles from Sastra, or I'm able to apply principles from things I've learned from my spiritual master, which he's gotten from Sastra, or I'm able to apply some things that maybe I learned from being in the material world, because everything is a lesson. Every situation is arranged for us to learn. Even in this Krishna's external material energy, it's arranged for us to learn. So if I'm affected by self-righteousness, people should not wrong me, they should not act that way with me, then first let me go to Sastra. Who might have been self-righteous and how did they act with that? So if we look at the pastime of Lord Shiva and Daksha, right? That's all about self-righteousness. So let's explore that pastime. Let's see how deep is my self-righteousness and then work on that. And then if need be, pray to the Lord, please help me to not offend another devotee, even though, they may have done something very offensive. But we don't want to just play the same game, right? We don't want to offend because somebody offended. So ultimately, we all have to go to Krishna at some point. Now, the work that we do differs for everyone. Everybody does the work differently. However, at the end of whatever we do, we end up going to Krishna and begging Krishna to keep us free from making offenses to other Vaishnavas. However, we do that, whether it's through Sastra, whether it's sitting down and chanting, names of the Lord beyond what we chant 16 rounds or whatever, whether it's begging forgiveness, as Krishna told in that pastime with Durvasha Muni, you have to go and beg forgiveness. Whatever it is that we do, there are tools that we use, there are skills that we are given in our Krishna conscious paradigm to apply, and it's all about application. However, first we got to know our disease. If I'm diseased with anger when something happens that's unwanted, then that's something I really got to be conscious of. How do I respond to my anger? Yeah. I hope that's helpful, Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, Martha. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's helpful, but yeah, we don't. Someone offend us, we don't have to take that offense to be an offense. But when Ambarish was offended, he didn't take that as an offense. He only surrendered to Krishna and he was praying to Krishna. Even though he didn't take it as an offense, but Krishna reacted. But my question is that when someone offends us, when I'm offended, and I know I didn't do anything wrong to this person, and this person has acted wrongly against me, and if I don't confront him to let him know what he has done, if I just keep mute, and I say, well, it's all right, then Krishna will have to come in. And that's my question.
Yes.
A situation like that, what to do? Is it good to approach the person, let him know what wrong he has done, or just leave it, let it go? Because if you leave it to go, Krishna will not let it go. Krishna doesn't want his devotees to be offended.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that question. First of all, I can say I am not on the platform of Maharaj Ambarish. So I probably would not just take something that somebody has wronged me and just say, it's fine, it's okay. Firstly, I would check in with myself, what's going on for me internally. See, there are saintly personalities that's internally so connected to Krishna that they're not affected by anything in this material world because they understand totally. They're not a part of this material world. And so that's what we are endeavoring to understand in our exploration of being a disciple of our spiritual master, is to be guided by our spiritual master to remember that we're not a part of this material world. However, for those that may still, have one foot in the material world and maybe 1 foot out, or whatever, 1.5 foot in material world and 1 foot out, they may want to explore what you said. Somebody offend you, and what to do. Ultimately Krishna will intervene if you say you haven't done anything to offend that person. On a material, or it's not even material, because actually ultimately everything is spiritual. However, in terms of approaching another person, it's so important how we do that. If someone have offended us, or on an ultimate level, as you said, we don't take offense, but then some of us may not be there. So if we did take offense, then we want to have dialogue with that person. That's always recommended. That's the part that's absolutely a part of conflict resolution, is how to have dialogue, right? There are 3 ways that we can resolve a conflict. We can have confrontation, where we just confront the person and say, you did this, you're wrong, blah, 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 whatever, just confront them. We can avoid the person, as you said. Don't do anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying anything. But inside of my heart, I am harboring anger and contempt and resentment that we need to work on, because it's inside, right? It's inside. And the third way is to have a dialogue. Don't want to keep all that mess inside, all that toxicity inside. So how do I have a dialogue? And to be honest with you, many devotees need training in how to have dialogues, because many devotees are self-righteous in the sense that they think, I'm going to go to this person, I'm going to tell them, what's right. I'm going to convince them in a little bit of playing Krishna. I'm going to tell them this is not right. Even Krishna don't do that, really. I mean, Krishna does it sometimes, but he did it with Arjuna, said, okay, this is it. But at the end, he tells Arjuna, but do what you want to do, right? So we need to learn how to approach people, how to speak to people. What are the words to use? Bhagavad Gita explains in the 17th chapter, there is austerity of speech. How we speak to someone is so key to make a connection with another person. It's so key. And many times we fall short of that, how to communicate. Communication is a big part of how we, just like Maharaj Parikshit, the way he communicated, it wasn't by words, it was by bowing down, but he was communicating a consciousness. So even to approach somebody that might have offended us by just bowing down, offering obeisance, in a very sincere way and saying, perhaps you might not be aware, you may have said or done this, and I was hurt by this. Can we talk about it? Not blaming the other person, but taking responsibility for what we are feeling, right? I am feeling angry. Can we please talk about this? I am feeling, contempt. I'm feeling resentful. This is in my consciousness. I don't like it. I really need to talk to you so I can get rid of this. Please, let's talk. If we approach anybody, especially a devotee, in that mood, then a devotee would have to really not understand the principles of devotional life to not respond.
Well, thank you so much, Mother. Anadini Dadam Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Dandavat pronounced. No glory to
Dandavat, Guruji. I pray that you are really having a joyful, initiated life.
But I'm trying. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mother. So, Mother, first of all, a little bit contribution before I ask my question. I listened to one Bhakti Dhira Damodara Swami's lecture, and he said, the reason why we have to pay obeisance to superiors is they take the risks in absorbing our sinful activities, whereby we, the one paying the obeisances, we are released. So I see no reason why we shouldn't pay obeisances, because by paying obeisances, you are released of your sinful reactions, whereas the superiors take your sinful activities. So to me, based on that, I do pay obeisance. But my question is, here you said superiors. So in this context, when we say to superior persons, is it position we are talking about? Because you made a reference to our African culture, whereby we pay respect to all obeisances to our superiors. And in some cases, we see that we pay obeisances to a king or chiefs, where a person can even give birth to, whereby in age-wise, the person is older than the one who assumed the seat as a chief. So when we say superiors in this context, what actually are we talking about? Is it age-wise? Is it position-wise? Is it when you talk of devotional service, is it in devotional service, being in devotional service before someone coming, or what actually is it meant when we talk of paying obeisances or bowing down in this very context? What actually does it mean? Actually, I have two questions, but this is my first question. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, and then thank you so much, Anandi Ninandanaham. Wow, you got a big name there. Beautiful, beautiful name. What is the meaning of your name? What is the meaning of your
Krishna,
name?
Yeah, Mother, thank you. Yeah, Krishna without beginning, without end.
Oh, Krishna without beginning, without end. Okay.
So my Guru Maharaj asked me nobody should call me to do devotional service. Willingly, I have to be doing devotional service.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So Krishna is inconceivable. Krishna is inconceivable. So in answer to your question, Prabhu, in relationship to first of all, it's important to bow down to everybody, everything, even to the ant, right? There's a pastime in our scriptures of, I can't remember who this personality is. Maybe some of you on the platform, because so many of you are so, scholarly, may remember who this person is that was careful about how they walked because they didn't want to touch an ant. They wouldn't want to kill an ant. So the purport of that is to be so humble that we are conscious of every living entity. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. I recently listened to a class, I think, by Radhanath Swami, who was explaining that when we don't value the fact that Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, then that means we need to look at how our false ego, is what's going on with our false ego. We need to look at that. So that's the first part of answering the question. We offer obeisance to everybody. We bow down to everybody, or every single living entity. That is the consciousness to have, that mood of bowing down, every living entity. Now, in terms of this purport, in terms of this verse, specifically, the verse is speaking about offering obeisance to seniors, to guests. Well, Prabhupada actually mentions to guests and then also to seniors, people that are perhaps older. Some of these saintly sages were older. Parikshit wasn't so much older. Parikshit was kind of younger than these sages. So to older, offering respects to the elderly. That's also explained in Bhagavad Gita, that we are to offer respect to the elderly, to children, to women. There's a verse that explains like that. Who do we offer our respects to? So in this case, Parikshit Maharaj was offering respects because they were practicing, many of them were practicing on the path of Krishna consciousness for a very long time. You remember, Parikshit Maharaj was acting in that role of a king. So he had all different kinds of responsibilities. So in that sense, offering respects, offering obeisance to a senior devotee, offering respects because somebody's older, just like I shared about Murari Prabhu. When he left his body, he was like 93 or something like that. When he joined Krishna consciousness, he was 65. And all of us, maybe even we were older in devotional life, but we offered him respect based on the fact that he was 65 years old, right? He's older than most of us. So that understanding of offering respect is there, whether it's for age, whether it's for time somebody spent in Krishna consciousness, whether, okay, I can't, yeah. Saha, you can read it because I can't see it.
Oh, no, I just put the verse back. The system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette, which obliges the honored guest deep into the heart. Yes.
Thank you. So yes, those sages, because he offered respects to them, because they were seniors, they were brahmanas, many of them, even the kings, some of them they had high positions as kings. He offered respects to them. So that offering of respect to them endeared him to them. They became dear to him because he followed the etiquette, the proper etiquette. When I spoke about Africa and the etiquette that I learned personally from having lived in Africa is that there's always respect for elderly. I have seen that personally. And I have seen respect offered to someone that they may consider that have knowledge, you know, in the community. Respect is offered to that person. I have seen respect even offered at times, sometimes to children, maybe not as much, but I have seen that too. So respect is offered. It's a part of our culture, whether we think we're spiritual or not. It's just a part of the culture. I hope that clarified, Anandini. Anandini, in our devotional sanghas, sometimes, as you may see, sometimes we may be reluctant to offer obeisance. I believe at the end of the class yesterday, it was mentioned that oftentimes we choose the people that we might show respect to, or we might show respect in different degrees, depending on our consciousness, the different people. So we see that even in our devotee sangha. However, the proper consciousness is really to offer respects to everyone. Now, that's a very high consciousness. It's an elevated consciousness, and we're aspiring to become like that. And so, yes, it may not be that we properly follow all of this etiquette in our devotional life. However, each one of us it's important, but even though we may not always see it, it's important for us to take responsibility, for me to take responsibility to be exemplary, to be what that verse says. Whatever a great man does, common people follow. And if I can make that a part of my internal consciousness, and I can be an example of that, that is what will affect and inspire another person, even when we don't see it in our environments. And oftentimes we don't.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother.
Yes.
I think somebody. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Well, yeah, actually, I would like to thank Mother and ask my second question, but maybe if someone else has to, maybe you can go ahead, maybe later.
Okay. So, Mother, you had asked us if we have a reason as to why we do not want to bow down, offer obeisance. So one devotee shared in the chat room, and it's called Sureshwar Prabhu. He said, we don't bow down because of arrogance and lack of humility. That is what he's saying. Now, if I may also share what I have to say on this, and that is, like you rightly said, in most of African culture, it is quite natural for everyone to show respect and offer obeisance to superiors. But this is just me. It's just me. I'm not trying to induce or encourage anybody to be like me, because I'm very unique and everybody is unique. And so I do not want somebody to be like me, and I do not want to be like someone else. But I tried to practice some principles in life, and that is, I say what I mean. And when I do say something, it means I mean what I say. So one thing I pray to Guru and Krishna is that Guru and Krishna give me the intelligence as to know when somebody just wants to be worshipped and flattered. If the person gets the worship and gets the flattery words, that will bring peace. And if by saying I'm sorry or bowing down to somebody will bring about that peace, I will do that. But generally, I pride sincerity over humility, because coming from African background, I grew up in Africa. It's very easy for an African person to show respect. But what does it mean if you're showing the respect and you are not sincere? Like you rightly said, Mother Rajalila, you are not sincere of the humility that you are demonstrating. Then what is the use? And personally, I do not recall any time I felt offended. I feel from time to time that somebody might have said or done something that I did not like. But I do not consider them to be offenses. My question is, why are we so much obsessed with offenses? Who are we? Who are we to feel that somebody has offended us? That means we are not humble in the first place, because even the scripture as we are reading, Maharaj Parikshit, when he put the snake around the neck of Shamaka Rishi did not consider it as an offense. When Shringi cursed Maharaj Parikshit did not consider it as an offense. But for us, any little thing, we consider it offense. So where is our devotion? So personally, like I'm saying, what I do to safeguard my head and my heart in devotional services, I pray to Guru and Krishna. Let my yea be yea, let my nay be nay. If I have to apologize to somebody, I have to sincerely know why I'm apologizing so that I do not repeat it again. If I do not know why I am apologizing and I just come to you, Madam Rajalila, I'm sorry. What am I sorry about? But a lot of people love that. A lot of people love that people come to them and say, I'm sorry. And if I find somebody who loves that, and if I do that, will bring about peace, I will do that. But in general times, I will not do that. Maybe someday, sometime, we may have to have somebody to educate devotees as to what really is humility. When we say humility, what it is. When we say offense, what is it? When we say certain things, certain words we use every day, but we do not have a very good grasp of the meaning. Maybe we should do that. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much, Saha. You made many wonderful points. And yes, always, you're very insightful, as is Govinda, all of you. You're just so very, I love how the devotees, in Africa, all of you, you're very aware of the scriptures. And it's a beautiful, it's just beautiful. I think I heard one devotee just appreciating on one of the classes, how in the devotees in Africa, that especially in West Africa, how sincere they are about wanting to hear. And of course, that doesn't mean all of the devotees, but those that are sincere. Now, when we speak about sincerity, genuine sincerity is humility, and genuine humility is sincerity. They can't really be separated. If somebody is humble, they're naturally sincere, genuinely humble. It's like we had a conversation on this forum about really knowing something. When you really know, you can know, but not internalize that knowing. So we can be humble, like show bottle. Prabhupada explains that in Bhagavad Gita, that there are show bottle devotees. So they're not really humble, but it's a show. It's like a show. However, in time, Krishna is so kind and so merciful that if a person stays in the process of devotional service, if a person keeps chanting the holy names of the Lord, if a person keeps serving the devotees, if a person keeps having an open heart to learning, then that person will develop that humility. That person will become, sincerely committed to being authentic. They will be committed. So when you say, Saha, that you speak you know, what is going on for you, whatever, you know, is there for you, and that you don't personally take offense, that is a great sign of spiritual advancement, because because it's not so easy to not take offense, actually, you know, especially, you know, when the modes of material nature are so prominent. So for someone that's not taking offense, that person is making spiritual advancement. And as to why someone else may take offense, well, all of us are on different levels of realizing, you know, our spiritual identity and our spiritual reality. And so that mood of love, that mood of opening our hearts, that every one of us are on different levels, and every one of us are students in this material world, and that Krishna's mercy is there for each of us, and that we ourselves, you know, as you said, depending on our sincerity to receive Krishna's mercy, that may differ for all of us. At the same time, as Govinda says, we wish the best for everyone. We wish that everyone will be on this journey, continue on this journey of Maharaj Parikshit, where Prabhupada says at the end of this class that the whole purpose of this bowing down for him was to encourage others in this mood of going back home, back to Godhead. That is one of the purposes. So if we can lovingly somehow encourage each other, even for those that might be show bottle devotees, that it's okay. This is perhaps where you may be at this time, or where I may be. However, please just keep chanting. Please just keep hearing. Please just keep having an open heart with devotees. And then we will all become sincerely humble. Because, yeah, for now, many of us may not be.
I'm sorry, I know there are some devotees with their hands raised, but generally, I mean, coming from Africa, I know this very well. Generally, outside of Africa, and even within Africa, lots of people think that Nigerians are more passionate than Ghanaians. Because a typical Ghanaian, no matter what you say to him, he will never get angry. In his face, he will be the brightest person. And so you would think that he's a very nice person. If you did the same thing to a Nigerian, he will react accordingly. If he has to be angry, he will demonstrate his anger. And so people will say, oh, this Nigerian is very passionate, you know. But the fact is that the Nigerian will tell you exactly what he feels and what he's going to do. Whereas the Ghanaian will not tell you how he feels and what he's going to do. If he has to tell you anything, he's going to tell you something positive, but he's going to do the opposite. In our scriptures, we know different types of obeisances. Bowing down is one, and then offering prostrated dandavat is another one. It's a very common culture, especially in Nigeria. When you offend your superior, you go, you bow down, you lay flat, and you hold his feet. Just like Lord Brahma did when Lord Brahma was asking, who are you to question me? Which Lord Brahma? When Lord Brahma visited Lord Krishna, we know this story. And Lord Krishna showed him different types of Brahmas. So Lord Brahma fell down flat with his helmet, touching the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the utmost humility. We Africans are very easy to do that, but we may do that and still not truly, sincerely feel what we are doing. So that is my point, that whether, like you said, sincerity, humility, they're side by side, but oftentimes they are not side by side at our level. And so if one is prepared to be humble, one should also be prepared to be sincere. Hare Krishna. Hare Chakra Prabhu, you may unmute. Maybe we go to Shrimavara Prabhu, please, you may unmute, please.
Also, Raj Taruni had her hand up too.
Yes.
No, Hare Krishna, am I still on?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Mother Bright, thank you very much for your class. And as always, you give us nice explanations to our questions. Yeah, the first thing is I want to do a little bit contribution, like the typical African culture, in the real, especially in the Ashanti culture. There is the belief that touching the feet of the superior, there is power in touching the feet of the superior. And if you touch the feet of the superior, it's a big blessing. And we take a cue in the Mahabharata. Before the war began, Arjuna shot arrows at the feet of Bhishma and Drona, offering his obeisance. And Bhishma and Drona blessed him with victory. And Drona was mad that these people are our enemies. Why are you blessing them with victory? And Bhishma told him that if you like, go and offer your obeisance to Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira will bless you with victory. So going to the feet of people is a powerful thing. So even in Ghanaian culture, if someone is after you, if you offend someone and he's after you to harm you, if you run and you meet, you go to an elderly person and you touch the elderly person's feet. By custom, the person who is after you is supposed to stop running after you. He's supposed to forgive you because you have touched the feet of the elderly. So touching people's feet is very important in both in African culture and in Vedic culture. Now my question. My question is, we always hear that if you offend someone, like Govinda Prabhu's question that he was asking, sometimes it is said that you may say something or you may act in a particular way that, thank you. You may act in a particular way that a devotee may feel offended that, oh, this Prabhu has offended me. And usually devotees, when they talk about this type of offense, they use the story of Rupa Goswami, that when Rupa Goswami was smiling, when he was seeing the spiritual world and he was smiling, and this deformed devotee thought that Rupa was laughing at him. And because of that, Rupa suffered for that. So devotees usually say that, oh, so if even you do something and some devotee is thinking that you have offended him, you still get reaction. So this is where my question comes in. My question is, if you take, when you were preaching, you cited the example of Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. If you look at the story of Ambarish and Durvasa Muni, Ambarish knew that according to the custom, he is not supposed to eat before his visitor eats. So, and if he doesn't break his fast too, he will have to continue the fast. So in order to do the right thing, Ambarish consulted with the Brahmins, the advisors of his kingdom. He said, look, this is my dilemma. How do I solve this problem? And the exalted Brahmins gave him the solution that you can just take some little water. It's considered that you have broken the fast, and at the same time, it's considered that you have not broken the fast. But when Durvasa came, in the heart of Durvasa, Durvasa knew that Ambarish has offended him because he has eaten before him. And yet, so that's why he tried to chastise Ambarish. But in the true sense, Krishna was also saying that Ambarish did not offend Durvasa. It was rather Durvasa who has offended Ambarish. And so he should go to Ambarish to beg. So my question is, when devotees, we think that by the way we have acted, maybe another devotee is feeling offended. And that way we're going to be reprimanded. What about that devotee who is thinking that he's been offended? What about him? If he also...
Chakra Prabhu, you are muted. Unmute, please. Okay, good.
Am I still online?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that, what about this devotee? If you are thinking that someone has offended you, but in the true sense, the person has not offended you, and you act in a way of chastisement, is it not going to affect you, that devotee who is thinking that this devotee has offended me? Like the situation between Ambarish and Duvasa. So this is my question, Mother. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Well, thank you so much for the pastime. Hearing about these devotees and how they interact with each other. Thank you, Hare Chakra Prabhu. Okay, so yeah, in that pastime, there is so many nuances, right? So many different nuances, so many different perspectives of looking at how to communicate with another person and how to ultimately get the mercy of Krishna. Because ultimately that was the goal, was to get the mercy of Krishna, right? So we hear that to offend a person, and just going back to what Sahadev was saying about different ways that we can offend. When we think about offense, how do we understand offense? And just very briefly, this understanding of offense can be, if we read Radha Sunya, you can get kind of a understanding from Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, because he covers this topic a lot on offense. So I wanted to kind of just say something about that. But in reference to the question that you asked, and in reference to that pastime, Hare Chakra Prabhu, if we think that somebody has offended us, if I can repeat the question, if we think someone has offended us, however, or if someone is offended and we think that they have offended us, however, they haven't really offended us, how do we respond to that person? Is that the question? I just want to be sure that I get it.
Yeah, he's saying, let me say, Mother VRAJALILA, you feel that Sahadev has offended you. And as such, you expected some sort of remorse reaction from Sahadev. And Sahadev also doesn't even realize that he has offended you. And so he's not coming forward to render any apologies. But because you feel that I have offended you, you have in your heart that I have offended you, and I'm not even coming to apologize. I'm not even showing any sign of remorse. What happens to you, Mother VRAJALILA, thinking of me that I've offended you?
So, it's important for us to kind of check within ourselves when we think someone has offended us, or someone is offended. When someone is offended, and we need to check within our own self to see, okay, what is, and I said this earlier, what is coming up for me? This person is thinking that I offended them, but I didn't. Is that, as far as I know, I didn't offend that person, but that person might have thought I offended them. So I just want to clarify again, is that what we're talking about?
No, Mother, you don't even know that the person is thinking like that. You don't even know the person is thinking like that. But that person is thinking that I have offended him. But the person that is thinking, I don't even know. So if the person doesn't confront me, if the person doesn't come to me and say, hey, Prabhu, this thing you did, you really offended me, how would I know? And yet some devotees are saying that just by you thinking that I have offended you, even though I don't know, I'm still going to suffer the reaction.
I see. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so you don't know. You have no clue. You have no clue that you might have offended that person. Well, yeah. Then, however, if someone comes to you and says that person is offended, right? That person is offended, even though you don't know, then the humble thing to do, right, looking for the mercy of Krishna, is to then inquire, well, I am not aware of offending that person. However, I am curious to know what is it that I may have done, because we do make mistakes unconsciously, possibly. Maybe I did something unconsciously that could have possibly offended that person. In that case, let me inquire. Let me have some curiosity. Let me have some wonder about what possibly I may have done. And then open a door in the heart to possibly approach that person and say, you know, I don't know if I may have done with a straw in my teeth. I may have said or done something I'm not aware of. Please enlighten me. Please let me know, because I am not in the business of making offenses. That's something that I don't want to be a part of. So if in any way I have done that, please let me know. Please let me know. Now, if that other person isn't, you know, willing to respond to your genuine, sincere question based on humility, then that's not your responsibility. That's their responsibility. That's their responsibility. But it is your responsibility if someone comes to you and say, this person is offended, you know, that there is some curiosity as opposed to self-righteousness, right? Where you think, well, that's their problem. I didn't do anything. I don't know I did anything. But even Srila Prabhupada, his example with his god brothers was to beg forgiveness, because he said, I may have said some things, I may have. And then his god brothers told him, no, you haven't. You haven't done anything to forgive us. But he's like clearing that. And what I'm saying, the whole purpose of this purport is for us to clear our way back to Godhead in terms of how we die. Because whether we take another birth or whatever, you know, we need to clear that. It's just like I've had that experience with someone, you know, me speaking to someone because they've done something offensive. But then within a couple of days, I went back to that person, I hugged them and I said, look, I am not willing to take this to my next life, whatever has happened. So I am asking you, please forgive me, because I don't want to take this to my next life. You know what I mean? I just don't. And so clear the air right away. And that person was laughing, like, you know, not like I was sincerely trying to like, whoa, I'm so sorry. You know, they were just laughing like, horrible, whatever. So
Okay,
I think.
Yeah, this is the first part of my question. The second part is that's why I was citing the example that devotees usually use, that Rupa Goswami was seeing the spiritual vision, and this deformed devotee came by and he saw Rupa smiling, and he was thinking that Rupa was laughing at him, but right. Rupa was not laughing at him. And because of that, because the devotee was just thinking like that, Rupa lost his vision. And so devotees are saying that if even you are not aware that you have offended the person, you still suffer the reaction. So the other part of my question is taking Ambarish and Durvasa Muni's story. Durvasa Muni knew that Ambarish has offended him, which was the Vedic system. Now, Ambarish had consulted Brahmins who had given him the procedure, and Ambarish knew that the water that he has sipped is not an offense, so he has not offended Durvasa. But Durvasa, thinking Ambarish has offended him, cursed him, and he was about to try to kill Ambarish. Now, when the issue went in front of Krishna, Krishna is now saying that it was Durvasa who has offended Ambarish. So my question is, so what about the devotee who is thinking that someone else has offended him, but in the true sense, the person might not have offended him? What will be that devotee's the reaction to that devotee who is thinking that this person has offended him? But in the true sense, that person has not offended him.
So let's look at this example then of Durvasa Muni. Why did Krishna say that actually it was Durvasa Muni that offended? You remember that part of the pastime?
Yeah. Well, why did it? Yeah, because Durvasa Muni,
he wanted to kill him.
He wanted to kill Ambarish.
Okay. But why did?
by taking his hair and creating this demon to come and kill Ambarish.
Okay. So why did Krishna tell Ambarish Maharaj that he was the one that was being offensive? That's the question. When it was Durvasa Muni that was actually being offensive.
Yeah, because when the demon was coming to Ambarish, Ambarish prayed to Krishna that your will, I'm surrendered to your will. So if it's your will that this demon kills me, then immediately Krishna released his chakra to kill the demon. And then the chakra was pursuing Durvasa Muni, which means right from there and then Krishna was pursuing Durvasa Muni, letting him know that he has offended his devotee. But if you listen to the story, you realize that Durvasa was thinking that Ambarish has offended him. And that's why he wanted to punish Ambarish. So, okay.
Yes. So Ambarish Maharaj, he was connected in humility and sincerity with devotion to Krishna. And Durvasa Muni misunderstood when he came to get that water, right? He misunderstood. Okay, so misunderstanding is there. That's a lesson to learn. There's always misunderstanding. And so now Durvasa Muni, his consciousness was not a consciousness of why is he, why did he do that? He's wrong. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have thought I offended him. Durvasa Muni's consciousness was a consciousness of bowing down. That was his consciousness. That's why Krishna told Ambarish Maharaj, you got to go and get forgiveness from him. You got to get forgiveness from him, right? So now Ambarish Maharaj, he was fixed in his devotion to Krishna. He was totally fixed. So he was not affected. He was not affected. Now we're not on, at least I speak for myself. I may not be on that level. So perhaps I may get offended if someone says that I did something that I didn't do. May not be on the external, I may not express that, but internally. And that's what I am saying. We always need to explore what's going on with ourselves internally. Internally, I may have some contempt, or I may have some self-righteousness, or I may have some anger that somebody is thinking I did something that I didn't do. That's the difference between these great devotees of the Lord who are firmly fixed in the Lord and those in the material world. If I think that I am at that platform of Durvasa Muni to not get offended, then I need to be honest with myself and say, is that real? Or am I an illusion? Is it possible that maybe deep in my subtle consciousness, I might have some contempt that they're blaming me for something that I didn't do? But that whole pastime is our lessons in so many different layers of how to understand, how to communicate, how to forgive somebody, how a person takes on this demoniac consciousness when they don't get what they want. So many different lessons in that pastime. Now, how am I what lesson will I take from my life in that pastime? What lesson will I take? That's the question. And so getting to offenses, the answer is there are 6 different ways that we can commit offense. There's many, but there's 6 primary. So yes, thank you, Jagannath Pandit. We see every problem as my fault first. Famous from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. It's always Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. If we have that bow down consciousness, then we'll be like the Durvasa Muni, we won't be so affected. However, most of us don't have that consciousness. At least I probably don't. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It depends on how the modes of material nature are affecting me.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shima Vara Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Shima Vara Prabhu, please.
I think Mother Vraja Tarini should ask question first. She hardly asked question on this forum. So I want to give her the opportunity to ask her question first. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, Madam Raj, sorry, please unmute.
Haribol, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
my obeisance.
Hare Krishna.
My question would be, sometimes we have some relationships that are closer than some others, like friendship, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we sometimes think that friendship, when, how can I explain? Like, good relationships also sometimes make like, you know, familiarity, you know?
Yeah, okay.
So sometimes they do things that really hurts us. So what happened with that pain when we feel that, you know? It can take like an offense sometimes, or because sometimes it is an offense, but we don't see it like that. And sometimes it's not an offense, but we see, that would be one of my questions.
Madam Raj, do you understand her question?
Yes. Thank you, Raj Taruni.
Thank you, Raj.
Raj Taruni, I'm so grateful you're expressing your voice. Raj Taruni is usually very quiet. Raha Prabhu is very, you know, he actually sees this. It's really nice that he's as he's sensitive to this fact that you don't usually ask questions. You don't usually speak normally. So thank you so much for voicing your question. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. You know, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he expresses in Radhasunya that we sometimes confuse what is an offense. And I believe Sahadev made mention to that it's really important to understand what is really an offense. What are offenses? And we can read about offenses in the Nectar of Devotion. A lot of times, it's true, we just kind of name everything as an offense. Every feeling that we get that is uncomfortable, we make it an offense. Anytime somebody says something to us that's not, you know, that makes us not feel the way we want to feel, we think we need to feel, we consider it an offense, or the other person consider it an offense if we say something because perhaps they have sensitivities. So in terms of communication, there are definite rules of communication, but I don't know, Raj, if by feeling, sometimes when we communicate, we can cause pain to others just by the way we speak. That is not necessarily an offense. It may just be that people aren't trained in communication. They don't have communication skills. And that's really, you know, important. Oftentimes we take something to be an offense if we don't have communication skills. And and so when you said about the pain part, I guess that's where I went to. And my thoughts on that is to explore more about why something would bring up pain. You know, what is that in me that is making that go to a pain area in myself? So that means that's a trigger in me for something that is painful within me that I need to explore more. If somebody does or says something that somehow I am responding in a way like it's causing me pain. And that happens in our devotee community quite a lot. We do and we say things in ways that may cause another person pain because that triggers within them some kind of a pain story that they have had for many, many years. And when somebody does whatever they do or say whatever they do, it's like putting more fire on, it's putting a fire on whatever that thing that's inside of them already. That is also a part of how we get purified in our devotee association, is, you know, to kind of learn, okay, somebody said something I'm feeling pain about it. What is that pain? What is that pain I'm feeling? Why do I have that pain? What is that pain bringing up? Where in other areas of my life do I have that pain? Not just by what that devotee said or did, but maybe some other way. I see that pain is there. It brings that up for me. Because Krishna consciousness, is so much of self-exploration and self-assessing. Assessing ourselves, exploring ourselves, so that we can have more of an open heart for the mercy. And that's what we see in so many of these pastimes. That's what we see in terms of Parikshit Maharaj. We see that a way that he was assessing himself was that he was bowing down. He knew he had already made an offense, so he's bowing down to these sages to protect himself. So it's important to assess what's going on with us. What is it that, what gets triggered in us? So I don't know, Braj, we can talk about this more.
Yes, my doubt is, it would be, I understand that perfectly, but let's say that between quotation marks, like what's happened when family, a relative really offends us,
Yes.
That's the thing, how we should take that offense, because it's hard for us, and even that we try to talk with them. It's just something that I have in mind while the devotees were talking about it.
I think if I may add to what Madam Raj initially.
Yes, please, Sahara, you can.
Is that because somebody like Kavikanapur Prabhu is my friend, right? And so I may say certain things to him which may be offensive, but because of the friendship between us, he wouldn't take it as offense. Do I suffer from that behavior, even though I acted offensive towards Kavikanapur, but because we are friends, he did not consider it as an offense. Now, the other side to this worry is that those who are very dear to us, they say or do things that are very, very offensive to us. But because of the connection, the love, the bond we have with these people, we do not consider them as offense. Do they suffer? What do we do? I think that is a question.
Yes. Thank you. So something that I would add to that, Raj, thank you, Saha, is to explore what is your connection internally with compassion. Explore that within yourself, because most people in the material world are fearful, and they are especially fearful when their loved ones go into an area of their life that they don't understand. And for devotees, when we become devotees, it's alien to most people in the world. They have so much fear, especially if they're close to us. And that is an opportunity for us to connect deeper with the compassion that is there within us, because our families are people that we also need to bring Krishna consciousness to. And maybe the way that we try to do it often is to let them see that what we're doing is right, may not be the best way. And so explore compassion. And as you do that, you will find that there may be another way of their strategies that we need to learn to connect with our family members. And they're all different kinds of strategies under the umbrella of compassion. So that's what I would go internally with that and make that your responsibility. It's not about them and how they're behaving or what they're doing. It's not, and the pain you might have that pain, but you wanna see that pain and know this is a spiritual pain I'm having because I want that everyone connect with Krishna naturally. However, I have to find what's gonna work. and pray to Krishna to give you the intelligence to see, you know, it may be you don't have to say anything, to just be. You may just have to be compassionate, be caring, be loving, even in the midst of them not understanding. That's a hard call. But it's what we got to do. It's the work we got to do. And are we ready to do that work? That's the question I ask myself all the time. I have so much appreciation for you, Vraj. I love you so much.
Thank you, VRAJALILA.
Thank you for being a devotee, sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. It seems Shrimad Prabhu, if you're still here, we'll get back to you. But Shri Upanishad, please, you may unmute. Jagannath Prabhu has kindly shared with us lots of important things from Bhaktivedanta Maharaj's book, Reflection 6, which is Radha Sunya. Mother Shri Upanishad, please, you may unmute.
Jai Prabhu's Hare Krishna. Dandavat, pranams. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Bhakti Tirtha Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai, real quickly, I'm just so very, very grateful. So much mercy. Maharaj is tough. Our guru, I'm going to use that everyday English expression. The Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology is just so wonderful because Maharaj has developed a way for us to be able to apply this Krishna consciousness. And I just want to give an example on this mood of being offended. I was talking to my daughter today, and I was having some health challenges. I've been having some tests and things like that. And she hurt my feelings, okay? And why I'm saying that is because when we're doing things that we know that we should be doing and things that we know we should not be doing, we have to blame it on ourselves. But we always allow our false ego sometimes to feel humiliated and intimidated by it. So just like when Jagannath Pandit posted that sometimes you need to take a look at yourself, look at the man in the mirror, and just actually, okay, you're right. So why am I feeling so bad about it? What I need to do is do something about it and not feel so offended because you're saying something that I know that I really should be doing with myself. And I'm going to say this again. Every book that Bhakti Tirtha Swami expresses in the Spiritual Warrior, he has something to say about our everyday life and how we can apply this imperishable science of Krishna consciousness. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm very, very grateful for this format. Keep on coming on with the questions, you know what I mean, with the feelings and being hurt, because that helps us become better at being a pure devotee. We're all aspiring to be pure. So Hare Krishna, Haribol.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the Shri Upanishad Devi Ki Jai. One quick thing I wanted to say. Jagannath Pandit Prabhu shared in the chat room. Says in Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj's Reflection 6, which is titled Radha Sunya, he quotes Skanda Purana, 6 kinds of apparats, offenses. Number one is one who kills a Vaishnava.
So I think I shared that in the beginning. I don't know if we want to go over it again.
Okay, so you did that. But before this, he had also, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu had shared that, see every problem as my 4th quest, which is one of the 4 principles of community building that Gurudev left with us. But the problem with this, my dear brother, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu, in this case is that what I was saying and what Arichakra Prabhu was saying is a situation where you do not even know the problem exists. You do not even know the problem exists. And Mother Vraj, you were saying that we make mistakes, offenses, knowingly and unknowingly. So that those we do not know, we seek out. If we have committed any offense, then we apologize. But here is the case that some advanced devotees are telling us, and I will put this one up for everybody to see. According to the definition of offend, which is a dictionary explanation, offend, it gives an example. I'm sorry if anything I said offended him. If. Now, advanced devotees are telling us, as soon as you use the word if, it means you do not mean the apology. And so you do not even have to render the apology. And somebody like me, I'm saying it does not make sense to me because I do not know. And I'm trying to seek out because I want to know exactly what the problem is so I do not repeat it. Now, if I just come to you that I'm sorry, what am I sorry for? I have to know what I'm sorry for. And so I'm asking, if this is what is making you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry, sincerely. And if you're telling me that it's because I added the word if means I do not mean it, and so you're not even going to listen to me, that is a hard nut for me to take.
Let's hear from Varaha with this.
Yes,
Varaha,
please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to all the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, it's not that much of a question, just some assessment or analysis of all the discussion we've been going through. And please listen, Mataji, listen very carefully to what I have to say, because you may have a way of correcting me. First thing, I thank you for using the word showboat to devotion, in response to Sahadev's question. People showing just, face humility, external humility. And Prabhupada said, too much humility is a sign of a thief. So we know this. You rightly mentioned that, yeah, there are showboat devotion. So people can easily show humility or respect just to, for favor or, externally. So, yeah, that is one thing which is already established, that there are showboat type of devotion and respect. But from our discourses on Bhagavatam, and I think it is maybe everywhere, but mostly on this forum, we make people fear men more than God. People begin to fear people than they fear God. So they fear to commit offenses towards devotees, but they do not fear committing sins against God. Our discourses are making people more fearful of committing offenses towards devotees, but they are neglectful in respecting religious principles. And I'm not just saying this, I'm saying it with experience. I remember two devotees, I will not mention their name, who are very much humble externally. We grew up together in devotion. Very, very humble and very cordial with everybody. They smile, they are very, jovial with everybody. but they gave up their devotional service by committing heinous crime, very terrible crime that shocked everybody. So you wonder, all their lives of devotion and being very friendly, cordial, and very respectful, but internally, they're not changing their ways of life or even fearing to commit sins. So this is my submission. Are we not making people more fearful of their fellow men rather than being conscious of not committing sins to God? I think if this latter is what we emphasize, it will also reflect on how we treat our neighbors or our fellow men. But if we're emphasizing offending men and we are not talking much about committing sins to God, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. So this is my humble analysis. Maybe you can correct me if I do not see correctly. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, my dear Varaha Prabhu. Firstly, please forgive me if I correct you in inappropriate ways and times. Please forgive me for that. My intention is always to want to hear from you. I value your contributions so much over the years. I value so much your determination. I value so much your just how you I'm looking for a word, that's to explain the dexterity that you have in pursuing Krishna consciousness. I mean, it's just amazing for me to see how beyond all kinds of obstacles you have been blessed to create, an environment where people can learn about Krishna consciousness. That is pleasing. That's what pleases Krishna the most, right? Those who share about him. And you've done that in huge community. So I thank you. I have no business to be correcting you in any way. And if it comes off like that, not as sisterly sharing with you, then I sincerely apologize. Sincerely apologize. Now, I agree with what you're saying. Absolutely. I think that many people don't don't speak in fear of being offensive to others. I agree with that. People don't often express what's on their minds, what's in their hearts, because it may sound offensive. And we do, as you said, we do need to be careful about whether we're sinning against the Lord or offending, or so much concerned with offending others. I absolutely agree with that. At the same time, as you said, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to know that these principles that are given to us about not offending a Vaishnava are very important. And at the same time, why is it even important? Why, what's the big deal? Well, mainly it's because we want to love Krishna. And in order to love Krishna, there's as you said, there's a way that our consciousness has to develop, right? And if we're offending each other, then it's hard to learn how to love Krishna. It's hard. So those pretentious personalities without character are not exemplary, but sometimes it takes time to see those persons unfold, right? It takes time that those persons will show themselves for who they really are, because they have that big external. And that's why we focus so much on the internals. We really gotta, each person take responsibility for their internal. Otherwise, it's easy to be pretentious. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. I genuinely appreciate when you share, genuinely.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm satisfied. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shumavara Acharya Prabhu. Thank you so much. Is this Salika or Kavika Napur, whoever you may be, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Salika Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Mother Raj. I'm finding the words, just like you, to express how appreciative I am to this beautiful class. Each and every time you come on the platform, you give us an amazing remembrance of Srila Gurudev. I'm so blessed to have an opportunity to talk with you. Your amazing experience, maturity. I remember several years back, when I would hear VRAJALILA, and when Gurudev would speak, and I think the very first time was when I was gave an instruction as you print his book, and I had to communicate with you. Then he said he should share with me some of the books. And I started meditating and remembering from that time till date, the kind of an amazing way you respond to questions, you respond to issues. We pray that Guru Krishna will continue to give you a good health and more wisdom to stay with us for some more little time so that we can at least have more of this kind of amazing experience that you share. Thank you so much. On the topic of today, so much has been said. And I like the way Bharat Prabhu come out. He took out part of what I wanted to say out of my mouth, because I think the bone of contention here is that each and every one on this platform, every person on this platform knows what is offense, what it means to be offensive, what it means to be offended. Material world in itself is a place of duality. And because it's a place of duality, sometimes it becomes very difficult to ascertain unless one comes to the platform of spirituality. Okay, let me go somewhere so that my camera can be pretty clear. I'm just coming. Okay, the phone I'm using now, I'm not on a platform. I'm trying to
right, you go ahead and speak.
Okay. Sorry. So sometimes it's difficult. I don't know why I'm not being seen. Okay, I think I know why now. Okay, I think it's now. Okay,
yeah.
Good. So being a place of duality, sometimes it's difficult unless one comes to the transcendental platform to be able to understand things. And in my own understanding of all of these topics, I think the middle point is the consciousness in which each and every body or each and individual person operates. We find out that there's some people who use the advantage of the scriptural injunction to buttress, to push forward their inner illicit desires. And by such doing, it creates a kind of an imbalance in an environment of spirituality as we have. So when we talk about offending and not offending, I know Secretary Prabhu and Sadip have spoken so much about the example of Srila Rupa Goswami and the hunchback devotee. But the reality here is that, from my perspective, I think that the consciousness of individual has a lot to do, because if one sincerely in his own or her heart is just like Ambarish Maharaj was, even if one commits an offense, let's assume someone commits an offense, but if someone's consciousness wasn't intentional, Krishna has a way of coming in between. So for me, I would go with what Gurudev taught us towards the end of his pastimes here. And when he was saying that, when they were asking to the Gurudev about so many of the things that were going on in ISKCON, and he answered each and every of the questions by saying, their problem, not my problem. And in this way, he could meditate on higher consciousness. And that is the way I take, that's my take on this subject of offending and not offending, because what anyone thinks is secondary to what my consciousness is. And based on my consciousness, I think that if I'm sincere and not being offensive in my mind in approach to each and every situation, the secondary situation has nothing to be worried about, because the more you're worried about what people think, how people assess, then it means that one is trying to level up himself to the consciousness of that particular person, and which is ultimately what I am thinking, that consciousness is what really matters here. And that is my feeling about this subject. I just want to share. But thank you so much for all of the wonderful ways you answer the questions, each and every of the questions that have come on this topic. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Salika Prabhu.
Thank you, Salika. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Another thought I had while you were speaking is, if I also always think that I am being offensive, I'm always being offensive. It's a part of being in this material world, you know, and sometimes I'm consciously offensive and sometimes I'm not. And as you nicely shared about not being so concerned about what others are thinking, more so being concerned about my own consciousness. Sometimes I'm aware of my offensive mood and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm aware and I'm not. And sometimes, you know, so it's something, it's within me that I need to be more conscious of within myself. And yeah, so I thank you for that. It's not about the externals. It's not about other people. It's about me accepting within me that sometimes, that most of the time I'm offensive. If we have that mood, then I think we won't have a problem.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Narayani Devi, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna, Narayani.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we can hear
Hare
you.
Krishna, Mother. Hare Krishna,
Narayani
Blessed
Devi. Haribol, you have such a beautiful name, Narayani.
Thank you. I don't know whether my question is, I think it's like a contribution. What I wanted to say is about offenses and stuff.
Hmm.
I think if we go by our scriptures and we try to be humble like a blade of grass, if we practice doing humble like a blade of grass, I think if we do that, we won't see offenses as time goes on, because it's like you're holding a fire in your hands and somebody do something and you are mad and you're holding the fire in your hands and you want to smash the fire on somebody. I think Guru Dev said that. Yeah. And you want to smash the fire, throw the fire on somebody for the fire to burn the person. The fire will burn you first. So if we practicing how to be humble like a blade of grass, that will help us to look over offenses that people are doing to us. That's what I want to say. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Narayani Devi.
Thank you, Haribol. Yeah, words of wisdom. Thank you, Narayani.
Shri Govinda, please, you may unmute. Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mother. Yeah, you know, in the early ages, Satya Yoga, Treta Yoga, Dwapara Yoga, people were very, very much religious. And so we are talking about offenses, which is very, very important. They are so important. That is why, in order to glorify Krishna properly and to attain him, there are principles that needed to be followed. And if we can follow these principles properly, then we can also chant purely. But the pure chanting is what attracts Krishna. And so they are very important. So the 10 offenses against the holy name, the first offense is to blaspheme the devotees. And so we cannot love God until we love devotees. And so in order to love devotees, we have to be, We have to be friends with devotees. We have to love devotees. And that is the only way we can love Krishna. Prabhupada said, you can show me your love by how much you cooperate. And so this discussion is very, very important. Very, 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 very important. That if we can pick a seed from what this discussion and truly apply it, I think it can take us somewhere. But now here we are in Kali Yoga, in Treta Yoga, Satya Yoga, Dwapala. People were religious and they were deeply, deeply realized. And so talking of offenses was something maybe, one of the millions that may come up a day that someone will, think offensively, act offensively towards somebody. But, at that time, those ages, the subtle offense, I don't know, was considered. So in Kali Yoga, the subtle offense are not considered. Subtle sins are not considered. One has to act grossly. So that is Kali Yoga. And so my question is, if sometimes it's very, very easy to to offend somebody if subtle offense are considered in Kali Yoga. Because if we are all, we are 2 or 3 doing something, we've all, rendered the one service nicely. And if you come and glorify the 2 and leave me behind, you don't glorify me, I will feel offended. I'll feel bad. And so if Krishna will consider that, then you who are glorifying the 2, you will be chastised. And, in different ways, we can talk about this. And so it comes to the point that psychologically, we are always offensive. Does those offenses considered in Kali Yoga? Just like Rupa Goswami was in meditation and he was just smiling because of the vision he was viewing. And that is considered psychological offense because this hunchback man thought that he was laughing at him. So psychologically, the hunchback was offended and it affected Rupa Goswami. And we all know that when somebody is thinking about you negatively, the person may be far away from you, but it can have impact on the person. So that is my question. Does a psychological offense or the subtle offense considered in Kali Yoga?
Govinda Prabhu. Actually, in Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's book, Radhasunya, he speaks about subtle offenses. And one of the things that he says that catches my attention always, he says, thank God that we are not having to be, that we are exempt in Kali Yuga from our subtle offenses.
Yes.
I think he said something like that that really catches my attention every time I look at that book. So yes, we're not responsible for the subtle offenses that we may commit. At the same time, though, it's just like Prabhupada says, take God out the picture, take offenses out the picture, take offenses out the picture. How can we be more caring and loving with the Vaishnavas? And if, somebody that you love might feel some hurt in some way or another, if your wife, if Sunita feels some pain of something, some hurt or something, and somebody tells you, your daughter comes and says, Mother Sunita is hurt because you might have said something, done something, didn't come home in time, whatever. You might like take some time and try to find out because you love her, right? You want to say, oh, wow, I didn't mean to come back so late or whatever. So it's the principle, I think Salika expressed this, is consciousness. It's consciousness. What is our consciousness with each other? That we got to check within each and every one of us have to check within ourselves. We just got to check that and see. And it's a fact. Suddenly we may not be responsible. At the same time, though, suddenly, do I care about this person? Do I really care about this person? do I really care about this person, even though I might not have done anything? Those are, these are some of the things. It's about consciousness at the end of the day, even if we take offenses out of it. At the end of the day, what is our relationship with each other?
Yeah, I asked this question based on the Hare Chakra Prabhu's question. So if subtly we are not responsible, then I will understand. Otherwise, I will say that everybody is going to hell. In Kali Yoga, everybody is going to hell because we're constantly offending each other without even knowing.
Right.
So
exactly.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
And we always need to think like that we're always offending someone somehow.
Yeah.
Prabhupada said, I was looking for that verse, right? That verse, Manda Sumandala, Matayo, that's Bhagavatam. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So even though I'm practicing trying to be a devotee, how much of that do I still have within me? And how much of that get triggered by the people around me? Those are things that we need to look at within ourselves.
Thank you so much, Mother Bride.
Hare Krishna.
We have 3 hands up. Mother, see, you are the cause of this because you gave such a wonderful class, and because when you cook nice food, you should expect people to enjoy the food. So this is what happens. People are enjoying
this is devotee sangha. This is what devotees gotta do with each other. Yes. I was just looking at what Varaha Prabhu wrote, so I was appreciating that. And if you could just read the chat, because I think Mitravinda wrote something too earlier. So
we
can do that before you go to everything.
Well, personally, I'm a Ghanaian from Africa. I came to US here not because I wanted to come here to perform devotional service. I could have performed devotional service in my home country, Ghana. I came to US because of money, economic progress. And here, I understand in Pennsylvania now, one flourishing business is mushroom business. And here I am, because I'm trying to be a devotee, I cannot enter into this business and make good money. And now somebody is telling me, somebody sitting somewhere whom I do not even know is having ill thought of me, and simply is having ill thought of me, Krishna is going to punish me. If that is the case, then why do I remain a devotee? I should go do my business and make my money. But I know that is not the case, so I will not accept it. I will try to remain a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Sahadev, you have the ability and the power to bless that devotee. Just send that devotee blessings.
Well,
blessings.
I hope I have the blessings, but if I do, I will. But let us hear what Mitravinda is saying. There are 2 hands up. I think there were 3. Mitravinda is saying, the eye of the fish has been pierced, Shuma Varaha Prabhu. So she was referring to Varaha Prabhu's submission when she spoke earlier. Excellent light on the necessity of understanding. And then, of course, I also said something, what a submission from His Grace Shriman Varacharya, indisputable. And Shriman Varaha Prabhu says, if our heart is purified of desire for profit, distinction, and adoration through conscientious sadhana, our mood towards others will certainly not be offensive, neither would we feel offended. How can it be said anywhere better than that? Can't be said any better. So I don't know if Madam Raj, you want to say something. Otherwise, there are 3 hands up. We'll go to them.
Yeah, let's hear from Bhakta Hassan.
Yeah, Bhakta Hassan, please unmute. Thank you, Shima Varacharya Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mother. Please accept my humble obeisances.
And
thank you for the wonderful class today. I nearly slept, so I came very late, but I have learned a lot today, and I'm so much relieved from what Sadev was talking about now concerning the offense. For example, like for offending somebody, even you don't know you have offended a person, you have to be punished for that. It was so heavy on me because I was beginning to think about so many things which has happened, and I was like, whoa, so if I'm going to punish for this, which I did not commit any crime, then I was really, really confused about this. But with this class today, I'm so much relieved. But what confused me is that these statements come from senior devotees, so it's a bit confusing. Really, it's a bit confusing because if we new devotees, we have different answers from senior devotees, then which one do we have to take? This is my question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhakta Hassan. Thank you so much. You know, and thank you for your question. In the purport, Prabhupada says, even the first grade offender, that means the biggest of offender, is excused simply by this process. And this is the process of bowing down, having that consciousness of offering respects to everyone. And Maharaj Parikshit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, he welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offenses. So that's the mood that we're to have. There are many people in our movement that think they're big men. And there are many people in our association that might think they're big men. And as Varaha Prabhu says, if that foundation of those people is profit, adoration, and distinction, then that's for them to have to work on that, you know? That's between them and Krishna, and they ultimately, at some point, will have to face that purification. However, for us, we always try to have that mood of Maharaj Parikshit. We try our best to have this mood of Maharaj Parikshit. It's not easy, but it's something that we are endeavoring, right? Every day when we wake up, I'm endeavoring to be a humble devotee. I'm endeavoring to have this consciousness of someone that bows down, even when we see all kinds of craziness in our environment. And that's going to be there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, human beings, we're all human beings, and we're all like elevating at different levels. And some people still have a lot of conditioning that they are having to work with, you know? All of us have, but some people have it more than others. And that's why I say, as long as we wake up to Krishna, Krishna, I want you in the mornings, let me chant your holy names, let me hear about your glories, and let me try my best to respect the devotees. Try my best. Because I'm sure, Prabhu, what you've seen is nothing to what might be there. You know, I mean, I'm sure you'll learn many more things.
Yes, thank you so much. This incident happened last year, and we're having Yatra in Barcelona here. And fortunately for me, I met one black guy. He's from Guinea Equatorial, because actually I'm the only black man there. So I was so happy. And after the Ratha Yatra, we are walking on some street, and he meet a friend. This friend is a Muslim. So we are wearing a Jagannath t-shirt, yeah. And they started talking, and this guy was saying, right now, I have found spirituality, I'm very good Muslim, and so on. And he asked us, why do we have to wear this t-shirt? Because this is an idol. And my friend was trying to explain to him, and he started reciting some verses in Quran. And when he started, I completed it. And what he was trying to say that God said that we don't have to associate anybody with him. So when I completed it, he asked me, why is it that I'm doing this? And when I started to talk to him, then he became offended. And I asked him, why do you want to say something to him in Quran, but we don't want to hear us? And he was very upset, you know. So in this case, I don't see what offense I did. So
well, what do you think happened to him? Hassan Prabhu, what do you think happened to him when you were able to quote his scriptures and share with him that even in a Prophet Muhammad, even in the Quran, there are mention, and Sufi, if we study Sufi Islam, we will hear about the Lord. So what do you think happened to him when he heard you say that?
Because he think I know what he's talking about, and I think he's very angry of me, of maybe talking about different faith. That was what I was thinking.
Yes. Okay, but what do you think is under that? So the externals is that maybe he got a little intimidated by you quoting the scriptures, but what do you think was under all that? What do you think was happening for him?
That is his ego. Or arrogance, or something.
You know, the way his ego was manifesting is he was fearful. He was fearful that you are able to share things from the Quran that he either may not be aware of or he does not want to accept. And so when you know that, oh, he's just afraid, then you can tap into your sensitivity for him. You know, because then you know, okay, he's just scared that he's afraid that I'm gonna kind of reveal things that either he might not want to accept. He might want to just stay in that space of being stuck that it's idols. But really, if he studies the Quran very carefully, especially from a Sufi perspective, we will hear that many realizations about God being a person. So, you know, then as Salika said, then we cannot be so concerned about what they're thinking, what they're saying. We go deeper to what's going on with them, what's really going on with them.
No, actually, they are all there. They are, because there's so many things I did not understand in Quran, but I find the answers in Krishna consciousness, and they are clear. You know, everything is there. Everything. I remember the other time Sadiq shared some chapter with me in Quran, and I read it, and I asked myself, why is it that they are not seeing this? I don't know if they know and they don't want to accept it or something like that, but everything is there. Everything is there, because in Quran, it said that one of the angels, when he stretches his leg, is beyond the earth. You know, that means there are thousands of universes. There is thousands and thousands and thousands. So the word of God cannot only be in Quran. It's impossible. Because if somebody has to write his biography, it will be more than Quran. So we have to learn different books as well, and we have to accept other religions and know more about them. And if you know more about them, then you begin to accept no. Because even the Quran said that you have to go to every land to learn. So it is there. So, and one thing I want to ask again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, right? Good.
Yes.
Why is it that when he came, Islam was there, but he was not be able to convert a lot of Muslims or open their eyes to see Krishna consciousness? Why?
Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted many Muslims. Some of his primary representatives were Muslims. Yeah, primary representatives. They came from the Muslim faith. So yes, as we read about Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, well, they were not Muslims, but there were others that were Muslims that actually became devotees of the Lord. And, you know, one of the things that Srila Prabhupada teaches us, something that Srila Prabhupada teaches us in the very beginning of Krishna consciousness is to not be sectarian. He never encouraged us to be sectarian. He always taught us that, you know, God is, Krishna is everywhere and in everything. In every scripture, he's there. However, there are different understanding that we may have of the Lord. So for a devotee, for someone that's practicing Krishna consciousness, their aspiration is to have a relationship where they're serving the Lord in some way. And maybe not every scripture has that focus. Not every practitioner of their particular faith has that focus. So yeah, in answer to your question, so many Muslims, especially in that area of Bengal, there were many Muslims, as you said, as you so nicely said, and many of them did convert to
Even
understand.
Haridas Thakur.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Govinda Prabhu. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your answers. Yes. Actually, the second time I went to the temple, the teacher was talking about Haridas, and I was so curious to know who Haridas is, because he said a lot of beautiful things about him. He was beaten up in 21 days, and he converted this prostitute and so on. So I wanted to know more about Haridas, and gradually, I think this is more of my inspiration to follow Krishna consciousness. Thank you so much, and thank you for this class.
Thank you for being a beautiful example.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Prabhu, thank you for being a beautiful example of your tradition that you followed, and thank you for showing us how that tradition is, you know, also complementary to Krishna consciousness. And thank you for acknowledging Haridas Thakur.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You all have to pray for me
Hare
so
Krishna.
that I become a very pure devotee.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're all praying.
Thank you, Mother Brajalila.
Yes, please hold on for a second. I beg you in the name of the Lord and Savior. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jagannath Prabhu, please unmute.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I'm extending the class a little bit longer.
No, okay.
Wonderful.
I think Mother Raj is happy to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I was meditating, thinking about this.
Is it possible to turn on your camera, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay, please do. Okay.
This topic of offenses, it's a huge one, and I was thinking about what your question, Sahade Prabhu, about you know, an inadvertent offense, you know, and I was thinking about the pastime with Dharma, the bull, personification of religion, who was had 3 legs. You know, he was chopped down to 1 leg.
Yeah.
And when asked about it, he didn't identify an offender. And Srila Prabhupada explains that if one identifies an offender or identifies the perpetrator, then they're also implicated in the karma. You know, they're karmically implicated too, which is interesting to me, because going back to the Radhasunya book, where it talks about one who gets angry at a Vaishnava. So So Sahadev, somebody came and said, and they said, oh, you didn't even know that you had offended the person. And then you found out that you had. Maybe you might be angry at that person because you didn't intend to offend them, but they got offended. And now you're angry at them. And is that considered an offense too, when you're angry at them? Because, I mean, obviously the bull, he's harmed. I mean, he's been offended. But he completely did not take any offense in that way. And therefore he was free of any karmic implication. But we can see how Krishna can use devotees in so many different ways. I mean, Parikshit, obviously, he was acting out of his character by putting that dead snake on Shankarishi. But Krishna had a plan. And it was a big plan. And here we are having this discussion because of Parikshit's surrendering or bowing down to what Krishna had arranged for him. And same with Shankarishi and Sringati. They were all involved in that, but it was all Krishna's arrangement. But if the pure devotee is seeing, like in this mood of Trinadapi, so they're always thinking that they're an offender anyway. So if somebody comes, yes, I am an offender, which is the same mood as the problem, seeing the problem as my fault first, right? So if one is already submitted in that way, then as Sriman Varaha Prabhu was writing in there, then it's the proper consciousness. So whatever Krishna arranges, he's got a plan. I may not be aware of it completely, and I may misunderstand it. I may have a desire to, or may be triggered in some way to react in a way that's defensive or angry about something. But the bigger picture is, there is a bigger picture, and that's Krishna's picture. And I may not always see that picture right away, but hindsight, is always there. So, say, for example, with the example of Rupa Goswami, Krishna had some plan, and so many people benefited, from. In some ways, we may or may not know that that as a result of what happened. So Rupa Goswami wasn't thinking, oh man, I was really enjoying this pastime. Krishna, what's up? I mean, we were having this wonderful pastime. Why did you allow this to happen? I didn't do anything wrong. But no, I mean, he's thinking, okay, how have I offended someone? So for me, it's saying that even if I don't realize that I've offended someone, if someone thinks I've offended them, then somehow seeing the problem as my fault first, there's a plan in it that Krishna is revealing, and I'm not aware of it yet. But if, as Mother Rajalila was so much saying, that if we bow down and surrender to Krishna's will, then obviously easier said than done, but then we can see what that plan was for us. So my question is that, shouldn't we be in that mood of like Dharma the Bull with regard to offenses?
That's a question to you, Brother Raj.
JP, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing that perspective of, it's not a perspective. This is actually eternal part of our Krishna conscious paradigm, that everything is being arranged by the Lord. Every situation is arranged by the Lord, and we may not see it. We may not understand it. In time, it does unfold. And what's that verse? Natenu kampam, that we just take whatever is happening and we accept it. And we understand that in time we will, we will get some understanding about it. Natenu kampam shishamik shamano. Yeah, it's again a verse of taking a humble position, knowing that everything is arranged, and in time we will get liberation. So patiently wait. That's the thing. That's the part of that verse. Patiently wait. So yeah, Jagannath, patiently wait to see what is Krishna telling. What's Krishna arranging here? I don't understand it. I'm getting accused for things I don't think I did. So thank you for sharing. Bringing that into the Sangha. Really appreciate it. So do we always keep that mood of Dharma? How do we keep that mood of Dharma? How do we keep that? Well, here Prabhupada, remember Prabhupada in his, when he was leaving his body, remember this is all about getting prepared for leaving our bodies. And so we spoke about this earlier, that Prabhupada, during those last days when his godbrothers came to visit him, that Prabhupada, he apologized. He asked forgiveness from his godbrothers. And he explained that in the early days, he had to protect his disciples, from kind of going off into the many different sanghas that were there in Vrindavan. And so he protected his disciples by keeping them very close to him. And so when he's at this time, when he's now leaving his body, some of his godbrothers had taken offense, and Prabhupada didn't know. He was just trying to protect his disciples. He didn't know Prabhupada's motives was pure. He wasn't to disrespect his God family. So what he did was he actually bowed down to his God family and asked them to please forgive him, even though he wasn't aware that he was committing, that they had taken so much offense by what he had done, how he had taken care of his disciples, how he had protected his disciples. So this is the example that we have. This is Dharma in practice, in practical application from our acharyas, of showing us what is the mood to have. Now, this story of Parikshit Maharaj is to help us to start preparing now, not to have this awareness now, how to beg forgiveness now, even when we don't know what we might have done. To keep and to have that consciousness. It's not even about, again, the words as much as the consciousness. Keep that consciousness of thinking, maybe I've done something and I can only beg forgiveness for it, because we're always going to do stuff. It's just a part of being in a material body.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother Brajan. Thank you very much, Jagannath Pandey Prabhu. The only thing, see, this topic of offenses and things like that, we may go on for years and we may not exhaust it, because one, in the case of Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada rendered apology, he knew specifically what he was apologizing for, because he knew how strongly he preached. And that was the reason why he was apologizing, because he knew that the manner that he preached, he obviously might have offended some people. So he was apologizing for that.
But it's explained, Saha Prabhupada explains himself that, it's explained from, I believe it's a class from Jayadvaita Swami, he's speaking in Vrindavan on Krishna book. And this is one of the things that he was sharing, that Prabhupada's motive for speaking to his disciples were pure. They weren't to disrespect his God brothers. That was not the purpose. Just like Bhakti Tirthamar. Yeah, that was not his motive. Bhakti Tirthamar did something a little bit similar. He protected his disciples when he started the Institute of Applied Spiritual Technology by not letting them be aware of so many things that was happening in ISKCON. Yeah. And the reason he did that was to protect his disciples. He had no clue that perhaps some people were getting offended by it. Yeah. That was not his intention, that people would get offended by him trying to protect his disciples from hearing things that would minimize their faith. So this was the example of Srila Prabhupada. It wasn't that he deliberately thought, oh, I'm protecting my disciples. This is going to disrespect my God brothers, but I don't care. That was not his move.
Not at all. Not at all. And I'm not in any way trying to imply that in the least. No, never. But what I'm saying is that as long as you preach, you're going to offend people, whether you like it or not. You're obviously going to offend people. But what I'm trying to say is when we truly accept that everything is Krishna's plan, and so it should flow that way, then why would somebody like Prabhu Govinda be offended by what I said when he understands?
So I'm gonna put that question back. I'm gonna put that question back on you, Saha. Why do you think? Yeah. You've been a devotee for a long time. You studied the scriptures. You know about devotee association. Why do you think someone would take that personally? Why?
Someone would take what personally?
Someone would accept that another person says something and they got offended by it or did something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I understand your question. Well, I had a friend. He told me, his father told him, whenever you see two people quarreling, do not ask what is going on. Ask what happened the other day, because it is something boiling up from the previous time. And so if somebody is telling me that I have offended him or her, oh my goodness, I would love to hear that and offer my sincere apologies, because sincerely, I do not want to offend anybody. But the issue is that if people are telling me that, if somebody is thinking ill of me and not even telling me that they're feeling ill of me, and I do not sincerely, truly do not know anything about their feeling, the mere fact that they have ill feeling towards me, I'm going to suffer for it. I said, I don't care.
Sahadeo, why do you think someone would tell that to someone else as opposed to saying it to you? They may not say it to you, but they may say it to someone else.
No, not to me in particular. It was said generally.
Yeah. I'm just using in general also.
Okay.
Just using you as an example.
Okay, yeah. So if somebody says that, and I will humbly ask the person to expand on it, because as far as I understand, that is not the teachings Srila Prabhupada gave us. Srila Prabhupada never told us that the mere fact that somebody is thinking ill of you, Krishna is going to make you suffer from it. And so then if you're gonna if you're gonna blame anybody in that situation, it sounds like the person that brought it to you is the person that maybe did not address it properly when they were told that when the other person told them they had some offensive, some hurt or pain from feeling offended. It seems like the person that they share that with would have been Krishna conscious enough to help that person to see it differently. Maybe they weren't. So now the question is, why would that person come and say those things to you? So it's so much. Yes, this is Jagannath. This post is sharing that again. There's so many different perspectives of looking at these things. However, the way to be safe
in all of these situations, the way to stay safe is to have this simple prayer. Let us sincerely pray to Krishna, pray to Srila Prabhupada, pray to our Guru Maharaj, to somehow or other help us to become humble in this process of devotional life, devotional service. That's the only way. Because then it's like you start exploring these things, and then was that person not Krishna conscious enough to help that other person that did not that are coming up with these things that,
Well, I know we have to be very, very humble, lower than the blade of grass, but humility does not mean foolishness. So
no, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yes.
No, Bhakti Tirtha says, humble but brave.
Yeah.
And how brave? We're brave in that we are doing our best for our activities to be pleasing to Krishna. That's how we're brave, to make sure our activities are pleasing to Krishna. So if we hear that somebody in our community is feeling some pain somehow or other, we reach out to try to see how we can help that person, whether we did something or not. And that's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy to do.
Well, I just want to divert this a little bit. And yes, Prabhu Govinda will be with you in a minute. Yesterday's class.
Saturday, we are already 3 hours. Can you go offline so that we can continue with the chat?
All right. Okay, thank you. We'll do that. So, Hare Krishna, we thank you all for being here. And it's beautiful to see you all the time.